Stories. I'm Star Smart. Let's begin.
Ambazonians. I woke up this morning really angry. As I looked, I saw green, red, yellow. I was wondering what kind of country is this, which says that red is its middle color, cuts across from the top to the bottom. That means it's a bloody country. A country will ever know blood as its middle name. That country is a country of hyenas, blood suckers, blood-thirsty, blood drinkers, vampires. The worst thing that happened in our history was for us to unite gentle people, civilized people of the southern Cameroon and Ambazonia to go and join animals, wild animals who cannot have a conversation, with anyone, who don't have friends, who don't know what the term brother or sister means. We ask a question, they slaughter us like pigs, they kill us anyhow with total impunity. They think it's their right to kill us. I was angry this morning. Are you angry? Are you wondering how long this will go? Why this must end? Or you are worried about some little things between you and somebody here and there? Are you going to channel this anger? Are you going to draft? Are you coming for the federal draft? Are you coming to empower us to do whatever is humanly possible to separate ourselves from these barbarians? Let me say this. If you refuse to draft for Amazonia, it is a draft for La Republic. That's the truth. It means you have drafted for La Republic. If you don't empower us to fight this monster, these animals who don't even qualify to be our neighbors, they don't qualify. They don't qualify to be our neighbors, talk less of brothers, deceivers. Yeah. The best place that these people belong is to, if it were possible, if I were the God Almighty, I will roll them up together like a carpet and throw them in the abyss. That is
The southern Cameroons find itself entrenched in a distressing cycle of bombings, a tragic reality that has become all too common for its inhabitants. This violence stems from various sources, which includes the genuine liberation fighters of the ASA who employ IEDs, improvised explosive devices, to target forces from La République, as well as pseudo-Amazonian fighters who indiscriminately plant bombs throughout Amazonia. Additionally, there are opportunistic individuals seeking to profit from the chaos of war, dispatching minions to carry out bombings at the expense of innocent civilians simply trying to navigate their daily lives. Well, this alarming trend of bombings has created a pervasive sense of fear and instability within the southern Cameroons, as communities are constantly under threat of violence. Innocent civilians going about their day to day activities are tragically caught in the crossfire, facing the grim reality of death and injury due to these senseless acts. Well, at its core, the prevalence of bombings underscores the urgent need to bring an end to the conflict ravaging the southern Cameroons. Every life lost is a poignant reminder of the human cost of war, emphasizing the imperative of finding a resolution that can restore peace and security to the southern Cameroons. Therefore, it is incumbent upon legal bodies and organizations with a genuine concern for the well being of those caught in the midst of this conflict to prioritize efforts aimed at mediating and negotiation by bringing the belligerent party to the table. The belligerent party, in this case, La Republique. There exists a tangible opportunity to address grievances, restore justice, and pave the way for the Southern Cameroons to reclaim its freedom and sovereignty. While it is on this note, we'll get into the full briefings of Adopted tonight. To usher us into all of the happenings on the home front, we'll get the prime headlines.
Here are the prime headlines for tonight. Lawyers collaborate with the Cameroon's Human Rights Commission. That is, lawyers in the Cameroons, in a hypocritical move, claim to combat human rights violations in the Cameroons. Still on the Amazonian War of Independence, Bamenda experienced bomb blast while shootout between the colonial forces and ASA in Kosala leaves at least 4 innocent civilians dead. Now, who are the problems in Amazonia? Well, Colonial deal seems to be part of the problems. Drug dealers reviews Colonial military patronizes illegal drug trafficking in Bamenda as well. Meanwhile, hundreds in Boya plans to flee. Hundreds in the University of Boya scramble for proficiency tests for visa to flee hopelessness in the Cameroons. Tonight, on Undaunted, we have Steve Nebafu, who will be telling us about the latest in Amber Peace Plan. Of course, we want to hear all about that from his Department of Human Affairs Community Mobilization. Meanwhile, on the African scene, the Interior Ministry has announced that 5 people were killed in a bomb blast in northern Kenya. And on the foreign scene, UN expert says North Korea missile landed in Ukraine's Kharkiv. Now let's get the news in full briefings. The La Republic to Cameroon colonial military is helping and destroying youths in the Federal Republic of Amazonia. After targeting and assassinating youths, these colonial thugs of the Bia's regime are now partnering with drug lords to destroy Amazonia. 2 successive Sundays now, the Colonial Central Police Station elements launched a crackdown on illegal drug smokers in the Old Town neighborhood. Now, these arrests were just mere camouflage. A confession of one of these arrested says it all. The colonial military is feeding fat from the drug dealings that is going on. What kind of arrests did they even make? What kind of deals would even get into drugs? Now, this is where we'll begin tonight. So, Undaunted, how are you doing this
Oh, splendid, don't you? Well, the report has it that La Republique du Cameroon's colonial military are the ones encouraging young boys and girls in Amazonia to take in these drugs in the city of Bamenda precisely. The revelation was made by one of those arrested by the colonial police. According to the young man, the only way the colonial gesture can be considerable is when drug lords are also arrested. When only consumers are taken with dealers pampered, nothing will really change. From the confession, members of the colonial military are consumers as well. Now let's listen to him directly.
What has brought you here, as it has been said that you are implicated for taking drugs? Tell the people why you take drugs. I can't really say I have a reason for taking drugs. I just found myself in it. But the main problem here is that when we take these drugs, we are being encouraged to take more. Who are the people encouraging you to take these drugs? The military does that. When they come, they don't arrest us. They simply take money from us and go. So today we are rather surprised. I didn't run because they usually just come for the money. I am surprised that today we were arrested. I am a son of Old Town. I am a Muslim. My name is Omaru Bakari. I am an orphan. So what really motivated you to keep taking these drugs? Once you've already started taking, once you've tasted it, that is when you will know what is inside the drugs. Someone who has never smoked them before can't tell. We know drugs are expensive, so where do you take money from to purchase them? I don't actually buy them. My uncle sells them. So when I was driven by my uncle, I went to a place where the drugs were sold, and my friend in the streets bought them for me. So what do you think about the fact that you people have been arrested? I leave it all to Allah. I am not scared of anything. I fear only God. So what can be done for you people to stop taking the drugs? All the drug lords selling should be arrested. That is the only solution. Would it help if you stopped the drugs? I just leave it to God. What advice will you give to other people who take these drugs? All I can say is that anyone smoking it should try to control the rate at which they take it. But leaving drugs is not an easy task. Once you are in it, it's difficult to leave. So members for the military even come here to smoke in the morning, just that upon arrival of those who arrested us, the gendarmes who were smoking with us had already left.
Meanwhile, in another devastating report, we are having this report that an eyewitness yesterday evening says that in Kostala quarters in Kumba, there was a shootout for several hours between the Ambazonian State Army and Colonial Republic of Cameroon military. And sadly, that particular event took the life of four civilians caught in crossfire, including a woman. Kosala has been under serious attack from Kosala 3 Junction, Government School, Motor Park, and towards Parliament. Meanwhile, in another development in Kosala, a young man was allegedly targeted for promoting circulation of bikes on Mondays. Meanwhile, according to intelligence reports, the perpetrators of this act were about 40 persons.
Well, the town of Kosala recently has been full of strange faces, according to residents in Kosala. They're giving their quota to people in support of Bia, they said. This disturbing information that we got from the people resident in Kosala, although yet to be verified, shows a foul play in all of this chaos that has been unveiled in Kumba in recent times, which has caused us to wonder if this is a case of infiltration of proxies into Kumba, talking about when they say they're seeing new faces that they do not know. We also wonder if this is the onset of another ADF strategy to sabotage the struggle. Or are the ASA fighting against two forces right now? I mean, the Colonial La Republic forces and pseudo amber forces that has just been launched in Kosala as well. We are wondering. But while we get more updates on all the happenings in Kumba and be sure of what other foul play Kosala residents are trying to point out, we can only advise that Amazonians in hot zones like Kumba be watchful and careful while carrying out their day-to-day activities, because those who take advantage of the struggle for dubious purposes and those who want to sabotage the struggle of liberation are willing to go any lengths, including hurting innocent civilians, to do that.
Well, this report points out the determination of the ASA to defend homeland against occupational forces. It is, in general, a call for all Amazonians to watch out and stay safe, especially in cases of shootouts and those purporting themselves to be for Amazonia but work against it behind their scene.
Oh, well, still on the Amazonian War of Liberation, the fact that there is bombing somewhere in the southern Cameroons has become so rampant that it is no longer anything new for southern Cameroons to hear. If it is not the genuine fighters of liberation, the ASA destroying La Republic forces trucks with IEDs, it is pseudo Amazonian fighters randomly planting bombs in parts of Amazonia, or those who are making money from the war, sending their minions to carry out their dirty task bombing at the detriment of innocent civilians going about their day. War-torn Bamenda local government area has never been absent in the news since the senseless war was declared on peace-loving and justice-seeking southern Cameroonians by the non-Nigerian Paul Biya in 2017. From arson to kidnappings to abductions to rape, killing, robbery, and many more, Bamenda has been in the news. This just go to reveal the ravaging war in Amazonia.
Well, this report gathered by Undaunted says that residents of Nkweme Bamenda were thrown into panic after a locally made bomb exploded at Maitu Junction on Monday morning of April 29th. Residents said they woke up to a loud explosion that quaked the neighborhood, leaving them trembling. An eyewitness reported being outside with their children during household chores when they heard a frightening blast and hurried into the house. Another resident mentioned that there were no casualties or material damage. It was also revealed that La Republic de Cameroon proxy Yayaba Cholukas claimed responsibility for the attack, alleging it was aimed at La Republic de Cameroon forces. Joe Ayaba of the Amazonian Defense Forces, claiming to be responsible for the attack that targeted enemies at Maintunkwe, while he also claims of two other operations in Bamenda earlier that morning without providing additional information. While Joe Ayaba has always claimed to be responsible for attacks like this, the CPDM authorities had not reacted to the bomb blast as at the time of this report.
Well, ADF, Choya, but precisely always claiming responsibility for bomb blasts to prove relevance in the genuine struggle for liberation is not news. Well, just like the claim to be responsible for the 11 February Nkambe bomb blast in Dongamatun County, only to afterward get information that it was indeed Ngala Gerald responsible for that. The ADF has proven to be an imposter claiming responsibilities for actions that they did not carry out, all in a bid to get attention to themselves. It is first of all sad that the ADF and some other proxy groups would think it is okay to pull attention by harming Amazonians. We've heard sets like this go as far as suggesting and planning to harm innocent pregnant women to pull international attention. And you would wonder what their real goal or intention is, a focus on just harming their own people or pulling international attention. Well, any right thinking person would know the answer. It is like saying to cut off your child's arm to get medicine. That is completely outrageous. This claim by the ADF reminds us of a part of the president's speech on Saturday, which we'll like to bring back to your memory.
The blacklegs who are giving out information about your location and movement will only thrive amongst the population if the population is against you. Those tormenting our population with illegal lockdowns, checkpoints, arrests, torture, and even death are not with us in this fight. They are working for the enemy who want to turn the population against us. Ayabacho and his fellow catechist Akatanganji understand that when the Israelites left Egypt joyfully and started suffering in the wilderness, they regretted and desired to go back into slavery, preferring the cucumbers of Egypt to the promised land of milk and honey. You should understand also that honey is sweet, but if you add aloe vera to it, some children will not take it, even if that is supposed to be the cure to their malaise. Hence, all the good soldiers must do all to stop these bad elements and hired spoilers and shame them anytime they act out of character.
Locally made bombs have been a common weapon used by Ambazonian State Army. Well, in the last 8-year armed conflict in the southern Cameroon, civilians sadly have also been victims of these blasts, which the valiant Ambazonian State Army often used to target the Colonial Republic Cameroon terrorist military personnel and disrupt their illegal gatherings at home front. In February last year, 3 bomb attacks killed a woman and injured several persons, including athletes, at the illegally La Republic Cameroon organized Mouth Cameroon Race of Hope in Buea, the federal capital. Another major explosion, this time by the CPDM stalwarts in February this year, killed a student and injured more than 70 people in Nkambe, Donga County during an illegal La Republic Cameroon so-called Youth Day celebrations. The planting of locally made bombs in civilian abodes have hitherto been condemned by human rights groups.
Well, it is sad to see that bombings have become so common in the southern Cameroons, whether the pseudo-Amazonian fighters or those taking advantage of the struggle for liberation, innocent civilians are being affected. And it is a terrible situation for Amazonians just trying to go about their day. At the end of the day, these all points to one thing: for the war to come to an end, so the lives lost due to this senseless war would also end, which is why any legal body who is genuinely concerned about the lives cut in between would do all to bring the belligerent to the mediation table in order for the Southern Cameroons to regain her freedom and get the justice it's been fighting for. Oh, well, speaking of legal system getting involved with these genuine ones, while Amazonians on the home front have to bear the brunt of the war declared on them by the nonagenarian Paul Biya, lawyers in the Cameroons, in a hypocritical move, joined the Cameroon's Human Rights Commission, claiming to combat increasing human rights violations. Well, we find this a hypocritical move for so many reasons. But first things first, is the fact that La Republic is a country that does not respect international laws, and this body has in their mission, I'm talking about the CHRC, has in their mission, aside the lofty idea of promotion, protection, and prevention in all detention facilities, to undertake human rights studies for these same government authorities that request them. So we wonder, what does this point out? It cannot be legitimate. That is why, in all the human rights violations carried out by La Republic forces, the CHRC, the Cameroon's Human Rights Commission, does not report about it, only report blaming the Amazonian State Army and the pseudo Amber forces. That is why these Cameroon lawyers joining the Cameroonian Human Rights Commission, purporting to fight human rights violation, is only seen as hypocritical. It is illegal for La Republique to judge civilians in military courts. But then, do they do that? Yes, they do. And is that a human rights violation as well? Absolutely. That is why we consider this so-called move to fight human rights violation by joining this commission that has been silent about its government human rights abuses quite hypocritical. Well, human rights violations in the Cameroons have multiple roots, and one major factor is the chaotic political context in which the failed country operates. Call it out in black: lawlessness.
The Cameroons have been ruled by genocide Paul Biya Bivondo and people the Money CPDM party, for over 40 years. And during this time, the junta has cracked down on dissent and political opposition. Now, the tight-faced Yaoundé government has been accused of arbitrary arrest, torture, and extrajudicial killings, particularly in the southern Cameroon's Ambazonia, where the War of Independence has been ongoing. Other factors include their ethnic and religious tensions in the country. The genocidal war in the southern Cameroon's Ambazonia has been ongoing for several years, leading to mass displacement, human rights violations, and humanitarian needs. Abuses by the colonial Yaoundé government focuses and forces are alarming as they open target civilians across Amazonia. These forces have been accused of unlawful killings and other violations of international humanitarian and human rights law. It is for these reasons and many more that the Cameroon's Human Rights Commission and the Human Rights Commission of the Cameroon's Bar Council has begun talks that they claim is geared towards putting in place a framework for collaboration between two institutions. The resultant partnership, from what has been said, is intended to facilitate collaboration in the promotion of human rights and the prevention of torture in the Cameroons.
Well, discussions and negotiations for the envisaged partnership started in Yaoundé on Wednesday, April 24th, and the president of the Cameroon Human Rights Commission, Professor James Mwangwe Kobila, and his close collaborators received in audience a delegation from the Rights Commission of the Cameroon Bar Council, led by its vice president, Barrister Dorcas Nkongme. According to Barrister Nkongme, the major focus of the collaboration is based first of all on the denunciations that, according to her, we are going to engage in, notably in the protection of human rights on the field, and to use the quote, in her words, to use the Cameroon Human Rights Commission as a reference each time they are blocked. But then it is one thing to sound lofty, but according to truth, it is another thing to see it.
As a human rights commission, it is your duty to protect, promote, and preserve human rights. But then, with the CHRC, the Cameroons, you have people that have been unlawfully detained, civilians tried in military courts. As a matter of fact, the Nigerian High Court has requested La Republic of Cameroon to send back those who were extradited to be brought back. But La Republic of Cameroon has not even respected that. Isn't that one of the things that CHRC was supposed to enforce and fight for? If they really were out for a genuine cause and not under the wings of the Republic of Cameroon. Military men beheading people in Bamenda with impunity, and that hasn't been stopped. Not to talk about it, because again, written in their mission is to undertake human rights studies for government authorities that request them. So, what if the government doesn't want that? Well, at the end of it all, news of lawyers joining the THRC is really a facet and not any news for Ambazonians, right? Really not any news for Ambazonians. Well, while we are at it, remember we told you that we have SOS for SOS, that's the Secretary of State for Department of Home Affairs and Community Mobilization, Secretary Steve Nebafu in the studio, and we want to get his thoughts on some of the reports that we have here this evening. You know, as a Secretary of State, I'm sure that he would have some positions of the government in some of the reports that we have this evening. Good evening, SOS Steve. How are you doing? All right. All right. So let us talk about the importance of self-defense. Let's start with that. Self-defense. Now we understand that there has been chaos all over, but good thing the ASA all over, you know, talk from Bui to Ngokentuja to so many other, even Indian has benefited, not to even talk about Kumba. I mean, the ASA, they've been doing well. Now, do you think that your department is working towards ensuring improvement or gaining more mobilization to execute more in other part of the home front?
Doing our best to make sure that the civil society in the home front is able to, work hand in gloves with our ASC and feed them with necessary information to be able to, um, you know, counter the onslaught by the genocidal regime of La Republic to Cameroon on our territory. They have killed more than 60,000 plus of people, millions of refugees and IDPs, all over the place, in Amazonia, in La Republic, and of course in neighboring countries. So I think that our role is very precise, we work hand in glove with the civil society in the home front, in in, in collaboration with the with LGAs and counties, and make sure that we have a very robust intra um, intra communicational link in the various edges and counties, and also an interlink in a way that we can be able to gather, information and make sure that our ASA get those information and they are able to resist the La Republic, genocidal, talks that come to kill them. So I think that we are great in that aspect, and that's why you see what's happening. It's difficult for La Republic to declare any victory because they will always, use this, quote unquote, pockets of, resistance here and there. But that is just because we are not relenting.
All right. SOS, I'd like to take a look at a particular report we just gave. We talked about the bombings in Bamenda. We also took a look at the fire exchange between La Republique and the ASA, as well as reports in Kasala of suspected infiltration, because it's yet to be confirmed, but there's a possibility that there's truth from the resident statement. Now, we're wondering, how are you working with the local government and county authorities to ensure that some level of sanity and order is established on the home front? Where the boys on the ground are properly orientated at the level of the home front from the diaspora, to make sure that the boys on the ground are not being instrumentalized by any other proxy forces as well.
Yes, I cannot speak on behalf of the acting Secretary of State for self-defense and security. But what I know is that our forces are well educated on the Geneva Convention uh, with regards to laws of war. So if there are some excesses, then it's difficult. We have to be very sure that those excesses are done by our forces. Regarding what's happening in Bamenda, I'm still to be briefed on that, but I think that if it's a resistant call, then we are on track. Of course, the enemy knows that we are in this for the long haul, and if they think that for some reason we will relent in trying to defend ourselves, then they are grossly mistaken, and they are underestimating our collective resolve.
All right, thank you. Thank you, SOS.
All right. We'll definitely come back to you, SOS Steve. We'll definitely come back to you. Let's take one more report and then get into the crux of the matter. All right. Meanwhile, we have this report here that says that lots and lots of Amazonians, and not just Amazonians, but Cameroonians are on the run. Where are they running to? Why are they even running? Why are they frustrated in the first place? Well, now the number of persons moving out of the Cameroon is on the surge. This is because there is no good political will to make the atmosphere of the Cameroons conducive for human habitation. During one of his outings, the president of La Republic de Cameroon called
On all.
called on all and sundry to remain in the Cameroons and not embark on their I must leave the country song. He even went further to instruct that no teacher nor those of the medical field should be allowed to leave the Cameroons. Now, with the old and weak still clinging to power, and the youth seeing no possibility of breaking even within such a rigid regime, the youth now consider traveling abroad as their lone means out of them or for them if they must breathe fresh air. Hundreds of University of Boyer students are guests of the Canadian visa. They have turned out to sit in for the French proficiency test examination. Why are they doing this? If the youth who by nature are the future of tomorrow are engaging in such mass exodus, what future is there for the Cameroons? Why not stop the senseless war? Why not create jobs opportunities? Why not create enabling environment for the youth to thrive?
On Saturday we asked, where is Paul Biya? It seems La Republique is being ruled by a voiceover. Well, after the declaration by the Dean of the Faculty of Arts, Professor Epouye Michael, that said that the May session registration of the French aptitude test was open on April 25th, 2024. Many young persons flocked to the University of Boya for it. The quest for a foreign expedition is on the rise, with many youths eager to leave the Cameroons at all costs, and certainly you cannot ask why, because this is as a result of the hopelessness of securing a decent job, political instability, and economic frustration. The registration process for this test involves entering names at the University of Boya, obtaining a form, and depositing the sum of 200,000 francs CFA at the Atlantic Bank. Considering the number of young persons streaming into this process and the 200,000 francs CFA cautions paid, the colossal sum and the colossal total at the end only strengthens the narrative of how frustrated the youths already are. As to where this money is coming from to pay this caution, that is a discussion for another day. Maybe we should take a look at the AMBER Peace Plan, because that is something that I think the SOS Steve would certainly like to talk about. Just in case you're wondering, what is the AMBER Peace Plan, the APP? It was adopted in the ASA 1 in Berlin with the aim of shared governance. And this is what the president described as in his speech. He described it as the three legs of government, which is the federal government, county, and local government areas.
My dear financial warriors, the government of the Southern Cameroons was designed to stand on three legs: the LGAs, the counties, and the federal government. Today, many counties are operating as counties with no local government structures because of what happened to us in 2022. And that means 3 minus 1 leg. If we have only 2 legs left, the counties and the federal government, how can it be taught that the federal government should not get involved? Now, how can a vehicle that was built to run on 3 wheels now run on 1 only? The war is won, but the strategies must keep changing. And let me tell you that the number 1 weakness of our structures from Berlin was over decentralization, because defense was not supposed to be decentralized. So we had round pegs in square holes and some bad seeds in good soil that the government had no power to correct or fire or change. And we put them in charge of 80% of our endeavor on the ground. Some did away with our hard-earned resources and for a pretext resigned to join their IGs in a desperate ruse to escape accountability. I strongly believe today that direct central government action on the ground with our forces is a plus, not a minus. Besides, how can we consider that we, the final authorities over the armed forces, have no strong ties with the ground? How can we represent a force with such strings of loose loyalty? And how can we build one army with 13 command centers without a central command? a center command that speaks to and for all on the national and international stage. We need more direct involvement now as a trust building measure with all of our forces. Those who still have a problem with the central government having direct dealings with our boys, or what they call their boys, they cannot stop the ADF and CPDM operatives from dealing directly with them, are confused in their logic. So let me appreciate all of you, especially those here who have drafted and paid in full already.
Oh, well, the Department of Home Affairs and Community Mobilization to this effect has set out a whole lot of rules and some important detail for every Amazonian to take note of. Now, this is for everyone. APP meeting, the time will be monthly. All stakeholders are required to attend all Amber Peace Plan meeting. The report and meeting should be given to the local government areas and the county head. Each county coordinator will be expected to coordinate the update from his or her county during the APP meeting. Where there are functional local government areas, each local government area will present its monthly update. We know that there's been some confusion, and so that is why we are taking our times to highlight and mention all of this for clarification purposes now. Also, there shall be deliberations, resolutions, and directives after updates from counties and local government areas. And then there will be question and answer session. At the best of the president, a town hall format may be applied. In that case, an invitation to attend will be extended to all Ambazonians.
Well, more on that announcement has it that everyone must also, we have to emphasize, first of all, on the fact that every stakeholder is required to attend all the AMBER Peace Plan meetings, but updates will be presented by counties and local government areas of the zone hosting the AMBER Peace Plan meeting. And there is also a misconception that we have decided the APP meetings into zones. And this is something that was corrected on one of the platforms because it said that is not true. The misconception that the APP has been divided into zones is not true. Again, counties and local government areas of zones hosting will be required to present updates, but then all stakeholders have to attend so that they don't have too many counties and local government areas presenting updates on the APP meeting, leaving room for little or no deliberation and more. But to talk more on this, let's just give the floor to Secretary of State for Home Affairs and Community Mobilization. I'm sure you'll do better justice to clarifying these misconceptions yourself. SOS Steve, please over to you.
Yes, thank you very much for that emphasis on the memo that I released a couple of days back. I want to outline a brief history of APP before I move to further emphasize what you have already emphasized.
Okay.
The APP is a grassroots mobilization framework initiated by the president, whose main goal was galvanizing our our people from the base, what's defending themselves against this onslaught of genocide that was waged on us. And the main slogan of the APC of the APP when it was adopted in Berlin in 2019, and I must add that I was in the working group as well as the former um, Secretary of State for Home Affairs, as well as the then VP. The main slogan that we actually um, adopted then was defending our county LGA by LGA. But of course, as there is constant evolution of this our revolutionary liberation quest, there has been need to tweak some of the aspects that we lay in APP in Berlin. And that's why the president emphasized in his speech that we did overlook or we did not take into cognizance the versatility of the enemy in terms of infiltrating us and making us to have to rethink our strategy on self-defense. That's why last year he had to initiate the policy of the federal draft so that we have a redundancy strategy in case that they are lagging, LGAs and counties in the front of self-defense. So I must applaud the president for that initiative. And of course, from last year, we have had some issues of regularity in terms of APP meetings, but that was due to the fact that we were more concentrated on mobilizing our people to come on board the federal draft initiative. And this year, we have moved back to basics. That's why I had to put out that memo. And you have said um, we we have we have adopted a um, monthly meeting model, which we hold on Fridays. Of course, earlier we were having it on Thursdays, but we thought that it's better for us to have it on Fridays, which is on the eve of the weekend, so that those, most of our meetings stretch out into the late in the night. So we thought that we should have it on a Friday so that the next day should not be a normal working day, so that we can attract all Amazonians to attend and make sure that they actively participate. So those were one of the reasons why we pushed it to Fridays. But we do understand that there are a lot of our comrades, notably in the US and Europe, who do work on Fridays in the afternoon. But if that is the exception, then there's not much we can do to ask them to then if they have any active role to play in these meetings, they should delegate it. If not, if we realize that the majority of them cannot be able to be there on that day, then we are flexible in kind of adjusting the day to maybe Saturday. But that said, I must also emphasize the point that um, every APP meeting is supposed to be attended by all stakeholders. Stakeholders here, I mean all branches of government or tiers of government, of course, county and LG executives, and of course, other stakeholders like the media and social government affiliated social media activists. Um, we do expect them to attend every APP meeting. Now, when it comes to reports and updates that will be presented in those meetings, we have structured them into zones. So each zone. I mean, we have the Atlantic, Midland, and Savannah zone. So they will take uh, turns in hosting this APP. So they will be the one to lead in all the aspects of the agenda. I mean, I'm talking about maybe opening prayers, national anthem, and other issues that are laid out in the agenda. And they will be able to mobilize their various counties and AG to present their reports. Now, we do not want to want to have a situation where we have 13 updates in one meeting. That will be too much. So we decided that uh, updates will be done zonally, and I don't think that is. I think it's just a matter of structure. Now, concerning participation, as you have rightly said, every stakeholder is required to attend every APP meeting, and we expect them to be there. So it's not as if we have fractured APP into zones. No, everyone is supposed to attend, but updates will be presented zonally. That is what I want to emphasize. And in case the president decides that there will be a town hall, then we will extend invitation to all Ambazonians to attend so that they can be able to listen to their president. And
Let,
of
let me let
course,
me come in there a bit.
APP, yes,
As so as neighborhood, let me come
okay.
there a bit. Now I'm going through the memo you dropped, and I was flowing through what you were analyzing, and I don't know if all Amazonian concerned understands exactly what this memo is all about. But when you were calling, when you're talking about some issues as critical as this, is important you call out all of the zones. You just mentioned three of the zones, and the local governments were not mentioned, but that's aside. Please, does it mean that the zones are going to be having their meeting within the zone? Is that what it means? Because we see here Friday, May 17th, for example, 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Boya time. We have Savannah Zone, we have Boyo, Bui, Donga, Manchun, Manchun, Ngokentuja. Does it mean that these zones would have their meetings together as one zone, while each of the heads would report to the zonal head? Is that what we are talking about? That the zones would have their meetings together. Is that
Thank
the
you very
emphasis
much
here?
for that
All right.
question. Yeah, I get you very well. What I want to emphasize is that the zone aspect of this memo has to do with hosting. It
Okay.
doesn't go beyond that. But we expect that each county that is in a zone should be able to present uh, her update um, on that day that they are hosting. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we are not. It's not a zonal APP per se. Everyone has to attend, but on
Okay.
that day, uh, um, counties of that zone and AGAs that are functional in that zone will be given the opportunity to present their updates and report, their monthly updates and report. Then we can have a deliberation and later have some kind of resolutions. And of course, we will also invite federal government members to come and if there's some information that they have to give out
Okay.
or there are some directives that have to be presented to our collaborators at the county levels, that is an opportunity for them to to liaise with the federal government and get the directives and of course take them back to their various edges and their community. So I think that is clear. Except there's something you want me to emphasize
No, no,
on.
no. We're laying emphasis on misconception, so it's very important that we clear that out since you're here. And
Exactly.
yes, and you made it clear that the meetings would be every Friday for different zones, right?
Not every Friday. We have meetings monthly, but it's on a Friday.
Okay.
Remember that before 20, I mean, when we were having our ABP meetings, they were held on a Thursday, and we never have complaints on about whether that day is not very convenient. We had a good
Okay.
turnout, but we have decided to even make it better to have it on the eve of a weekend, just in case a meeting drags on late into the night.
Night.
Uh,
Okay.
the next day will not be a working day for most of us, most of those who are on the home front, because we also have to consider the home front. There are a lot of comrades who do attend, who are in these civil societies in the home front, who do attend, and of course those in Europe, and of course I know that in North America at that time it's their afternoon, and some of them are at work. So we are saying that if if the a few of them uh, are at work at that time and they have an active role to play, then they can delegate someone to you know, come in for them. But if we realize that a majority of them will not be available at that time, we are flexible and we can be able to change the day
Okay,
maybe
that is
to
that is
Saturday.
really
But I
well
don't want us
understood.
to. Yes, I don't want us to dwell on trying to change it. I just
Yeah,
want
I,
us to make sure
I
that we remobilize our people and make sure that they come in this role of decision making, management, and mobilizing our base vis-a-vis the LGAs, counties, and of course the civil societies of Amazonia.
All
All right.
right. I know Star has a
Sure, that's
burning
fine.
question she has for you, but I understand the importance of clarity as it relates to the Amber Peace Plan. So, for those who probably do not have the dates for their zones, we'll try to do that right now before Star would ask her burning question. Now, for Friday, May 17, 2024, it will be Savannah Zone. Friday, June 14th, would be Midland Zone. Friday, July 19th, 2024, will be for Atlantic Zone. Friday, August 16th, will be for Savannah Zone. We have Friday, September 20th, will be for the Midland Zone. And we have October 18th, of course, Atlantic Zone. Friday, November 15th, summary of yearly report by all 13 counties. So these are important dates for you, your county heads, and local government heads to actually take note of. Stan, over to you.
Oh, from what SOS Steve said, you certainly showed consideration for all of the attendees of these APP meeting, considering their time, their availability, and all of that. And that is a great consideration. But then now, looking at the fact that the president wants to enforce centralization more than the decentralization of the Amber Peace Plan from its original conception. What's the rationale behind this thought of the president due to the fact that the direction he's now taking, the government is taking, is quite different? We're wondering, do you think that this is progressive, and why is this a change?
Yes, I think that what the president is trying to do, of course, you know that there's always room for improvement. When we when we uh, when we laid down the framework for APP, we thought that we'll have some kind of communal synergy where our people in the grassroots, I mean, when I mean grassroots, I mean the LGAs, the counties, will be able to participate in the decision-making management of this our liberation movement. But because of the versatile nature of the enemy, and of course internal forces that disintegrate our goal and our objective to make sure that we can defend ourselves in this in this situation where we find ourselves of a genocidal war, and our goal to liberate our homeland completely. We have an issue of managing our forces. So the president is not actually, you know, it's not. He's trying to emphasize on the aspect of self-defense, and which it's an oversight that we had when we the APP framework, which has become our blueprint, was an oversight because normally self-defense is something that should be managed at the central level. He's not going into civil society and what they are doing and counties in their other roles of fundraising and inter and inter intra and intercommunal synergy in a way that we can be able to attack or defend ourselves as the enemy constantly attacks us. So I want to emphasize that he has seen one aspect of the framework that is not working well, and he has been proactive in a genial way to bring a policy that we can centralize self-defense. But that does not also mean that the what he has brought in as a policy has nothing to do with allowing counties and AGAs to still go on with what we had before. Remember,
Okay.
after the federal government draft, we will have county drafts. Okay, so he's not trying to completely obliterate, the counties and the edges in getting involved in their communal aspect of defense. He's trying to put in place a redundant policy. And when I mean redundant policy, it has to do that in case there are edges of counties that have the capacity to defend us, but they don't have the means, then the federal government can some kind of come in. And I think that's a very genial initiative if you look at it from the standpoint of sustainability.
Okay, could you like
Thank you.
elaborate more precisely on some of the situations that could have provoked or advised this decision of the federal government to centralize during this time of war?
I don't want to go into the challenges that we had. I think these are internal issues, and the government has had the time to look into them. Um, what has been laid out as government policy going ahead, speaks for itself. There have been some challenges uh, in terms of management and accountability. But that notwithstanding, no human endeavor is perfect. Uh, we can only improve on it, and what the government has done is what we need at this time. That's why I'm trying to appeal to all Ambazonians to make sure that they fall on board on this federal draft and do their best to make sure that we have this aspect of self-defense sustainable. We have this aspect of self-defense put down there and make it a sustainable venture. In case, we are dealing with an enemy that is very versatile, as I've emphasized. So we have to change our strategies to make sure that we meet up with their gimmicks. And that's what the president has done. So I don't want to go into the specifics of those challenges in terms of, pointing and calling you.
While you do not want to go into these specifics, you're avoiding. Now let's have a more open-minded perspective. Looking at the broader spectrum, do you think this movie is progressive or retrogressive?
I will tell you, only that this movie is very progressive. There's no government in this world that I know that decentralizes defense. I mean, if you think that in 19, I'll just want to give you a simple example. When we joined, not when we joined, when we were coerced to have this fake
Marriage, you would call
independence by joining
Okay.
La Republic in 1961. There were some departments that were centralized, that was diplomacy and defense. So I think that we overtrusted our grassroots. Not that we overtrusted our grassroots. We overtrusted individuals and hoping that they will deliver in good faith. But if that did not happen, then I think that it was government's prerogative to rethink and realign us to something that will work. And I think that that's what the president has done. We are not trying to indict anyone. We are all humans, we make mistakes. But I think that let us give a chance to this. I don't want to call it centralized because the federal government has not taken over all the aspects of self-defense. And as I've said earlier, I'm not the one to question to be elaborating on these things because I'm not the SOS for self-defense and security. But what I can say is that the government has not taken over self-defense as it is put out there. The government is saying that in case that there are situations where we have to come in, let us have the resources. And to me, that's a proactive way, and I do applaud the president and those who thought about this redundancy strategy.
All right, I think with that, we'll call it a close here. It's been amazing having you. This is probably the first time we've had you on air with us. It's been amazing.
Yes, there's always a time for everything. That's what the books say. So I'm happy to be with you. I do appreciate the work you are doing. I do watch ABC all the time, and I hope that I'll have other opportunities to come here and exchange with our people. And one last thing, I want to appeal to them to make sure that they do attend the ABP meetings and they actively participate because that is an opportunity for them to add their views, be involved in decision making, and be active in our noble quest of liberating our homeland.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, too, for joining in. We'll head on to the African.
My dear financial warriors, the government of the Southern Cameroons was designed to stand on three legs: the LGAs, the counties, and the federal government. Today, many counties are operating as counties with no local government structures because of what happened to us in 2022. And that means 3 minus 1 leg. If we have only 2 legs left, the counties and the federal government, how can it be taught that the federal government should not get involved? Now, how can a vehicle that was built to run on 3 wheels now run on 1 only? The war is won, but the strategies must keep changing. And let me tell you that the number one weakness of our structures from Berlin was over decentralization, because defense was not supposed to be decentralized. So we had round pegs in square holes and some bad seeds in good soil that the government had no power to correct or fire or change. And we put them in charge of 80% of our endeavor on the ground. Some did away with our hard-earned resources and for a pretext resigned to join their IGs in a desperate ruse to escape accountability. I strongly believe today that direct central government action on the ground with our forces is a plus, not a minus. Besides, how can we consider that we, the final authorities over the armed forces, have no strong ties with the ground? How can we represent a force with with such strings of loose loyalty? And how can we build one army with 13 command centers without a central command? A central command that speaks to and for all on the national and international stage. We need more direct involvement now as a trust building measure with all of our forces. Those who still have a problem with the central government having direct dealings with our boys, or what they call their boys, that cannot stop the ADF and CPDM operatives from dealing directly with them, are confused in their logic. So let me appreciate all of you, especially those here who have drafted and paid in full already.
Well, on the African scene, a lot of chaos seems to be happening in Kenya. A lot seems to be happening in Kenya because we have not just the floods in Kenya, while the flood that has already killed at least 45 is ongoing. We have the Interior Ministry also announced that 5 people were killed in a bomb attack in northern Kenya. The explosion happened in Elwak town in Mandera County near the border with Somalia. It is really sad that 5 others were injured as well. The bomb was actually hidden on a donkey cart to avoid being detected. It's really concerning that Al-Shabaab militants might be responsible for this attack, as they have carried out similar ones like this in the area before. Just last month, suspected Al-Shabaab gunmen entered the El-Wak hospital and injured guards while asking about the doctors. No one has been arrested yet. Al-Shabaab is known for these cross-border attacks, especially in the remote Kenyan counties of Mandera and Garissa. They've even threatened Kenya forces who have been deployed in Somalia for years to help stabilize the country. It is really a tough situation, but we hope that there will be improvements in this particular situation.
Meanwhile, in Burkina Faso, Human Rights Watch investigated and found that over 220 civilians, including 56 children, lost their lives in a single night. The country's military is allegedly responsible for these atrocities. The village of Soro witnessed the loss of 179 lives, while 44 others perished in the neighboring village of Nondin. These mass killings are being described as some of the worst abuses by the army in almost a decade. It's disheartening that Burkina Faso authorities have remained silent, while the public prosecutor is urging witnesses to come forward and help identify those responsible for the massacre. The initial estimate was 170 deaths, approximately, and absolutely devastating.
Absolutely devastating. Well, we move to Togo. There is a proposed new constitution to eliminate future presidential elections and give lawmakers the power to choose the president instead. The opposition and the clergy believe that President Faure Nasibe is trying to extend his rule through this legislation. It is concerning to hear that civic and media freedoms have been restricted ahead of the vote, which brings to mind foul play. Protests against the new constitution were banned, opposition figures were arrested, and even a French journalist was mistreated and expelled. The media regulator even suspended the accreditation process for foreign journalists. Additionally, the Electoral Commission has banned the Catholic Church from deploying election observers. Togo has been under the same family's rule for 57 years, starting with Eya Dema Nasibe and now his son Faring Nasibe. The opposition claims that the proposed new constitution will likely lead to Nasibe's re-election when his current mandate expires in 2025, which is already clear. We'll move now to the news across the globe.
UN experts say North Korean missile landed in Ukraine's Kharkiv. The debris from a missile that landed in the Ukrainian city of Kharkiv on the 2nd of January was from a North Korean Hwasong 11 series ballistic missile. United Nations Sanctions Monitor told the Security Council Committee in a report seen by Reuters on Monday. Now, in the 32-page report, the UN Sanctions Monitor concluded that debris recovered from a missile that landed in Kharkiv, Ukraine on the 2nd of January 2024 derives from the DPRK Hwasong 11 series missile and is in violation of the arms embargo on North Korea.
Well, Russia is taking advantage of slow arms delivery. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says Russia is taking advantage of the slow delivery of Western weapons to go on the offensive. His comments come after the U.S. agreed a 61 billion U.S. dollars, that is approximately 49 billion pounds, package of mostly military aid for Ukraine. Mr. Zelensky said some of the aid had started to arrive, but added that it needed to be delivered faster. He was speaking alongside NATO Chief Jens Stoltenberg, who said it is not too late for Ukraine to prevail. The comments come after authorities in the Black Sea port of Odessa said a Russian missile attack had killed 4 people and injured 32 more. Odessa's regional head Oleg Kipar said 3 women and 1 man had died amongst the 4, and the injured included a 4-year-old and a 16-year-old, as well as a pregnant woman. Civilian houses and infrastructure as well had been damaged, he said.
Meanwhile, BRICS has $260 million in trade without a single dollar. How is that possible? Well, as the American dirt-wild growth of more than $34 billion continues to raise concerns, the BRICS deliver another blow to the greenback. China and Russia, 2 founding countries of the alliance, plan to conduct $260 billion of trade without resorting to a single American dollar. Only Russian ruble, Chinese yuan, and a little bit of euro. Other members of the coalition are expected to follow suit soon, preserving and preserving the immediacy of the threat. The U.S. reacts by combining threats and diplomacy. Will that work? Well, the threat of de-dollarization of global trade has gone beyond the stage of rhetoric, determined to dethrone the greenback. China and Russia plans to conduct this year's $260 billion trade without using a single dollar.
Well, China firms go underground on Russia payments as bank pullback. An appliance maker in southern China is finding a hard time to ship its product to Russia, not because of any problems with the gadgets, but because China's big banks are throttling payments for such transactions out of concern over U.S. sanctions. To settle payments for its electrical goods, the Guangdong-based company is considering using currency brokers active along China's borders with Russia, said the company's founder Wang, who asks to be identified only by his family name.
With that foreign news, we've come to the end of tonight's Undaunted. But before we go, let's take a look at the recap.
On Undaunted, we brought to you lawyers collaborating with the Cameroon's Human Rights Commission in a hypocritical move, claiming to combat human rights violation in the Cameroons, as well as the state of the war of Amazonia, having the Mende experience a bomb blast while shootout between colonial forces and the ASA in Kosala leaves at least 4 innocent civilians dead. We brought to you Colonial deals becoming the problem in Amazonia as they are part of the drug deals ongoing in Bamenda.
Well, tonight on Undaunted, we talked about hundreds in UB scrambled for proficiency tests for visa to flee the Cameroons. We also looked at the latest development from the Department of Home Affairs Community Mobilization. Well, the Interior Ministry announced that 5 people were killed in a bomb attack in northern Kenya was on the African scene. While on the foreign scene, we talked about how the UN experts said the North Korean missile landed in Ukraine's Kharkiv. And that's it for tonight on Undaunted, bringing to the news on George Stories. On behalf of Sir Smart and the entire Undaunted crew, we say thank you for tuning in.
We'll leave you with ABC Amber TV images. Good night and God bless you.